The Flogcast may occasionally contain explicit content that makes it not safe for work or for minors. It also doesn't provide an excuse to use the same words on Bay 13. Normal big footy rules still apply.
Alright, so this is the vlogcast for Lucky Round 13 on Bay 13. Fyfie joined by Teach,
Hi, everybody.
Penal,
Hi there.
and Dan.
Dan.
That was the D on the end of "and", I think, that I kind of got stuck on.
Do you want to go again or go with Dan? Just the stuttering.
The stutter. Look, since I hinted at it, and it's probably was the match of the round, I hinted at it in the thread, but I think we'll start with Friday night. And, well, Penal, would you say Geelong's performance was concerning?
Yeah, they nearly lost to the worst list in the competition, just relying too much on their old veterans in Hawkins and Selwood and Bartel to get them over the line every week.
Hawkins is fucking 26, idiot.
They were very lucky that Hawkins stopped paying attention to the pie man in the second quarter to get on the scoreboard, because the rest of it, he was out of the game.
Selwood is a star, and he got them the win.
Yeah.
It was a good victory for the Cats. And the umpiring was really, really good too, I've got to say. Really good. Honest, fair, right down to the wire. Really good.
I agree, the umpiring was great, but what wasn't great was Geelong's kids. I mean, Josh Walker, Billy Smets, Jesse Stringer, just rubbish. They wouldn't get a game at Hawthorn, who just showed their depth off this week.
Oh, goo.
Well, they wouldn't get a game at Hawthorn because they're not on Hawthorn's list. But nevertheless, they managed to beat Hawthorn week in, week out. So,
Except
Hawkins,
when it matters.
Oh, no shit fights, thanks. Come on.
Hawkins is the Goliath of the forward lines this year. I'm just in awe of how good he is. And Selwood, my God, doesn't he just step up? I've got to say, we always seem to struggle a bit against Carlton. For some reason, the matchups just don't go right for us, and it's always a bit of a struggle. And despite what you guys saying, I know you're winding up the Carlton supporters, they were rough done in the end
No, they
by
weren't.
the umpires.
They get what
Yes,
they
were.
deserve.
Yeah.
No, fuck them.
Yeah, the
think so,
umpiring
Ben?
actually favoured Carlton in the last quarter because Lonergan should have got a 50 because Thomas just knocked the ball out of his hand. You can't do that.
That's true.
Okay, I didn't really think about that. I'm turned around on that. You're right, guys. The umpires were brilliant.
And they can blame the umpires in that sense all they like. But before Selwood kicked that goal, after the goal from Hall Smith, I think it was.
See, it's just another fucking rubbish no-name Geelong kid. You can't even remember his
get
name
fucked.
easily.
Paul Smith is a gun, and you would have him in a heartbeat at Hawthorn. So just shut the fuck up.
Anyway, right after the Hall Smith goal, at the clearance, at the centre bounce, Mark Murphy, he's hanging out the back, and I don't know who feeds it to him, and Murphy didn't have the clean hands. He let it go through his hands, and they would have been away with the clearance with a minute to go, and he would have bombed it into the forward 50, and, but instead it went back the other way. It eventually ended in Selwood's goal. So,
People who blame umpiring for losses are simple-minded dolts. There's just too much shit that happens in a game of footy to put the blame solely on umpiring.
Did you see the melts on the Carlton board?
Oh, jeez. It was led by the moderators.
Enormous melts.
Well, there was a brilliant one on the main board as well, and I've seen the post quoted in a few SIGs around the place by Essendon supporters. What this Carlton supporter has said is, that is the most bulk shit result I've ever seen in my life. What an absolute fucking disgrace. That would have been a 10-goal hiding. Fuck you, AFL. I'm not watching any more of this fucked up piece of shit you call football. Fuck you, your grandmother, and your gay uncle. Absolute fucking rubbish shooter. Side the Brisbane or Melbourne, which he's completely lost all sense at this point. He's not making any more sense. There's a 4-letter words in a row there to follow it off.
Who posted that?
I think it might have been an alias of Balkan.
Oh,
Oh, well, I'm not surprised then. If the melts are going to come, it's from Jaden's family.
it was hilarious in that sense. Like, they gave up the 16-point lead. Did Waite fuck up again? I think he did at some point. I
He
can't
was
remember.
subbed out because he was so shit.
That's right, he was subbed out. I knew there was something about Waite being shit. Yeah, he got subbed out. What does that say? Waite's getting subbed out. He's got to be close to another dropping for discipline reasons, surely. They got to send him back to the twos because he's just not realising his potential.
Maybe he's got to man the barbecue this weekend.
Punishment enough.
Yeah, you can fry the onions or something.
Mind you, they're all pissed at the umpires and not the players. But something else that was funny about that game, someone else who they should be pissed at, like when you're playing a big game on Friday night against a team like Geelong, who, as concerning as the youth is, are still a formidable opponent, you want to be prepared right from the word go. You want to be just ready to run out on the ground.
Absolutely.
You don't want to have to, after running through the banner, go back down the race and change your shorts.
What the
What
hell
was
went
that
on
all
with that?
about?
Why were they... Actually, that's very interesting because it was a Geelong home game.
Geelong's
Yet
home
Geelong-
shorts are white, aren't they?
No, blue.
Really? I thought your strip's mostly white.
No, our away strip is white. So maybe we were pulling the troll on Carlton and we ran out with white shorts and thought, we'll make these dickheads run back in and change their shorts, which is exactly what they needed to do.
What would
And
they
that
have
extra
done?
running that they had to do meant they had less run at the end of the game. So, like, that was brilliant. Just
Was it the
more cheating from
AFL?
Geelong.
Was it the AFL that told them that they had to change them? So what would have happened if they didn't have any spares?
I think the punishment that they said on
probably
Channel
would have
7 was
gone out
5,000 fine per player.
They probably would have had to go out in their undies.
Which probably would have gone the equalisation, that money.
Bootsman would have gone commando.
Anything else on the shorts?
Well, who makes the decision on what? I mean, who made the mistake at Carlton with that? Who tells the players you have to wear this colour shorts this week?
Probably the property steward who's too busy, doing an inventory on the tongs and the plates and
Oh yeah, he's worrying about the barbecue when he should be worrying about the players.
the gas bottle and, making sure the gas bottle's ready to go. He's not...
It might have had something to do with Bootsma taking all the other shorts. Like,
Look, the property steward does need to make sure that they double check what is going to be worn on the weekend.
I don't know why they just don't have both on hand. The guy has to drive around.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But, since when has Carlton ever made sense?
Yeah, how hard is it to pack an extra pair of shorts in your kit?
Not ever.
Like, everyone here's played footy at some point, yeah?
Yeah,
When you went to a game, did you take both pairs of shorts?
of course.
Yeah, I
Every-
did, yeah.
Carlton are too good for that. Baffling.
it's
Fuck 'em.
because
They've
since the
lost
salary
every
cap
bottom.
cheating scandal, they just don't have the money to pay for the extra pair of shorts for the players.
Cutting corners.
Are we officially renaming Mick Malthouse?
He did lose his shit, didn't he?
He always does.
Is that everything on that game?
Keep losing maggots, it's funny.
Got to say, it's left Geelong's position precarious and a little bit concerning, to use that word again.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Teach was pumping up Hawkins earlier, but he hasn't kicked 8 goals in a game this year, has he?
Who gives a fuck? He doesn't need to.
All right, that's a good segue. Then we'll move on to Hawthorn West Coast, and Ruffy kicked 8, didn't he?
He did.
Oh, Ruffy, he bossed that game big time.
It's a good game to watch, I guess, from a Hawthorn point of view, considering the last 3 games haven't been great. But was really didn't get out of third gear for most of it and did enough to just have a good win. Another injury picked up, unfortunately, which is sort of the norm for us at the moment. You never like to see young kids go down to injuries, especially promising youngsters, which Hawthorn have a lot of. But
Fuck's
I guess at
sake.
least it wasn't a key player like Hodge was saying.
Wank, 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 goo. West Coast made a game of it for about a quarter and a half.
Just before half-time, they lost touch, and that was the game.
Yeah, but I mean, you could see for most of the game that they were just sort of holding back the tide, and Hawthorn just had the discipline and the systems to just put them away.
It was at their home ground too,
Yeah, the
like,
Weagles were never going to beat Hawthorn at their home ground in Tassie.
where they might be playing up to 6 games if certain people get their way.
Kennett was right.
Yeah, apparently Hawthorn have failed in Tasmania. They failed their home ground, according to Time. They're just not
Doing
committing
enough for the state.
No, I'm not surprised because they're just greedy bastards who don't care about anyone else.
You're just
who-
there for the money, Penal.
Yeah, just Hawes.
Yeah.
Hawthorn.
It's like
Doing what's best for the club. The only sort of group of people that the Tassie deal has let down is North, because without Hawthorn playing games in
Oh,
Tassie.
deflection.
North would be playing about 11 games this season there. So I understand why the North supporter amongst us is a little annoyed because instead of having a lucrative deal with the Hobart Stadium, he has to play games at Etihad and make a loss on home games.
With spin like that, you
because I
could go work
care
for
a lot about-
Essendon.
Yeah. I mean, you should put your hand up for media manager at Essendon, Penal, because you're good at spinning the shit.
Spinning shit.
Yeah, let's get back
You
to
are a
a
father.
let's get back to the game,
Sorry.
and I think it was really just 1.5 quarters. So from about the middle of the second quarter to the end of the third, it was just 11 goals to 1 in a row that we put on.
Ruffy kept him in it. West Coast had the ascendancy, and it was Ruffy that kept Hawthorn into it. And then after that, well, Hawthorn just took over, but Ruffy was best on ground by a mile.
Yeah, he isn't a junk time specialist, unlike Jack Rewalt. And I know Dan mentioned kicking
Like,
goals from the goal
you
square.
can't help but putting in the barb. When you're talking about your players, you just can't help but just picking the barb and just going, I'll fucking stick it into Jack Rewalt, I'll fucking stick it into Hawkins, I'll fucking stick it into Petrie. You are a nasty
I was just about to stick the barb back into Roughhead. Like, obviously, great game overall, but he almost missed from the goal square, which I don't know if you guys saw, but he sort of
I did see that.
he had
I
a
saw
fresh
that.
area, then kicked the ball into the back of his
First
leg.
accidental goal I've ever seen.
And it was, complete fluke that it did manage to go in from there. He
But
almost
when you're on and when you're on your game, those things come off.
And Hawthorn certainly were on their game down there. I think that West Coast losing that game's really well and truly put them out of the finals hunt. Because
Yeah,
even as this season's been in many respects, in that GWS went close to Hawthorn last week and also beat the Swans, and Port Adelaide have lost to North, and North have lost to Gold Coast, all those things, we appear to have 9 teams that can make the 8 as of halfway. I think you can draw the line under the Crows at the moment.
That means shit. There's only one thing that determines what makes the finals.
Oh, not the Drew Petrie
Yes,
calculator.
Drew Petrie calculator.
Someone on the main board did a calculation, and that GWS Sydney game was the only time where a bottom 8 team, so 11th to 18th, had actually beaten a top 8 team. And I have noticed a lot of West Coast supporters melting on the Bay this week.
But yes, since you mentioned the Drew Petrie predictor, let's move on to last night. Look, I'm going to join Plugger and Ant on the bandwagon because I'm not a nuffy who thinks they cost games, but fuck, the umpiring was frustrating there. They were trolling Bartlett for writing some of the most incoherent rules ever, and whilst he sat in the box and called the game, the umpires went, "Watch us screw you." And it's just one of those times where we paid for having KB, I think.
Press red for KB was pretty funny, but I've got to say, Fyfie, wouldn't you think?
To throw a man or two behind the ball when they kicked the first 3 of the second half? Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you?
If you sort of change the nature of the game and North Melbourne are leading at every change and they're just getting a little bit further ahead, you could probably go home going, you know what, we really tried. But
You could go home proud for once.
Yeah, but to be that far in front and then to get crushed in the second half. I was listening to KB and I'm watching it, and I was watching it from a Richmond perspective, even though, I'm driving the North Melbourne bandwagon and I'm driving over all of the Richmond carcasses. Tiger balls, bang, bang.
The wagon went off the cliff at half time, and then when three-quarter time finished, wagon miraculously landed on its wheels.
No, I was just fanging it. I was just fanging it up on the cliff there, and the back wheels went over the cliff. But we corrected. We ran over a few Richmond carcasses, and they're all dead.
It's funny you should talk about that, because having seen that, KB's certainly on Teacher's bandwagon of North making the grand final.
What the hell's wrong with Richmond, Fyfie?
They're not playing Chaplin in the midfield.
As I said on that particular thread, which we will reference later, Chaplin's rightful spot is not the midfield, it's the VFL. But yeah...
Is it Hardwick? Does he need to go?
He's a large part of the problem. He's not all the problem, but clearly this is probably the...
Does he not know fuck all about the area?
He picks some pretty ordinary teams.
At least he didn't pick Magic Door.
Well, that's the thing. It's almost like we're getting toyed with. They played a passenger for the first half.
Yeah, just for shits and giggles.
Yeah, just like trolling, like Brad fucking trolling.
Talk about trolling, Drew Petrie says you're not going to play finals for 2 years. Pick
Yeah.
4. He played his
You're
best
correct.
game for the year.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. His years are in isolation.
And bloody Nahas nailed you as well. Oh my God.
That's the thing. That's how shit we were playing. Nahas was allowed a downhill ski all over us. Like, we got killed by the 2 downhill skiers at North, Petrie and Nahas. So that's...
What needs to change?
I don't know. I'm going to have to wait and see how the year finishes. But
Because in all seriousness,
we'll get a nice draft pick.
your team is so much better than what it's showing right now.
Yes, that's why the problem's so hard to... Like, admittedly, he's not been picking good teams. This is probably the best prepared team he's actually had when he's walked into a game with the least players who don't belong there.
Perhaps it change of direction, maybe.
I don't know. They don't move it efficiently, but that seems to be a confidence thing. We got opened up.
Maybe you need another 5-year Terry Wallace plan.
Well, this is a
I'll tell you
5-year
what,
hardwood plan at the moment.
It's really hard for a side to break out of the negative cycle.
The doom cycle.
The boom cycle, yeah. When they're losing games and they're not expected to lose games, and the coach, they just try and keep their hand to the tiller and say, we're going to get through this storm, but the supporters don't like it. The press are after them. The press are just gunning them down at every turn. It's just really, really hard.
But as bad as it is, we skied all over GWS 3 weeks ago, which is just kind of like that should be the point where you go, oh, the confidence turn it around. It's just back to normal.
I noticed that Dustin Martin had a good first half, and that was it, as it seems to be.
He had a great half.
That's because we played up forward, which worked for a half, and then, he needs to get his fitness right, but he still wasn't as flashy as fucking Zeeble, fat bastard that he is.
Do you reckon, a couple of recycled players coming in at the end of the year would do the trick, Fyfie?
Yeah, why not?
When I read that, I thought, first was, where's the money coming from? Because I'm a practical person. The second question was, why?
Just a few more Aaron Edwards and Kent Kingleys.
Admittedly, if we recruited David Mundy, that would be great just to watch Pav's head explode. But when I saw that, I thought, what the fuck are you doing chasing bloody overpriced free agents? As Ant said, everyone who goes in free agency is overpriced, and that's true. So,
all right, let's move on.
Yep, all right. We'll go to Queen's Birthday, which, well, it was uglier than the royal family.
I only watched the first half because that game was more uglier than Camilla Parker Bowles' Minge. It was atrocious.
It wasn't good. I mean, I'm glad that I didn't watch much of it. I just had it on in the background, but I just peeked over and thought, fucking hell, it's nearly half time and no one's kicked 50 points.
Yeah.
And I thought, and then I drove around later and I was listening to it and it just sounded like Melbourne tried to put up the wall and Collingwood just continually tried to kick over and kick a winning score, and they eventually got there, as we all knew that they would. But
speaking of walls, I actually this week went and didn't bother waiting to watch Game of Thrones on Foxtel. I downloaded it so I could watch Queen's Birthday. Well, that was a mistake.
Big mistake.
There was no reason to go to the extra length because that game was putrid, and the only redeeming feature was, once again, Seedsman with his, I think it was 9 run and carry bounces was counted in the third quarter, and he was
the only shining light of that game. I think this is the second week in a row that we've said that. I think
he's single-handedly dragged Collingwood into 4th spot and their matches into relevancy.
How many did Clow kick?
He got on the end of one late, but I don't.
Yeah,
One.
they got the
One.
one.
I watched the game, but I was so mind-numbingly bored, I didn't really pay attention.
I mean, if you're a Melbourne supporter, you would have probably enjoyed today's game because they're not being belted by 100 points, which they've been getting belted by for basically 2012 and 2013 and the second half of 2011 as well. So, small positives for a Melbourne supporter, but shit for the rest of the comp, just watching a team park the bus like that.
Yeah, that was Paul Roos really got into World Cup fever, and, he was sulking about zones last week. The AFL bringing in zones so that he couldn't do that kind of shit. Well, Paul, when you dish up that,
Paul Roos dishing up that crap that he dished up today has no right to fucking comment on the state of the game because he's responsible for a lot of the things that are wrong with it.
Yes.
And he should be charged with bringing the game into disrepute, and so should Ross Lyon.
Imagine in another year or two, Melbourne versus Fremantle. That would just be, it'd be like 1 point versus 3 points.
Nah, Ross will have fucked off from the Freo carcass by then. He'll probably be at Melbourne.
I think
I haven't said much about this game. I'm just Googling Camilla Parker Bowles. God, what was Charles thinking? Not even Teach would go there.
No, you're right. I wouldn't.
That's a first. We've actually got an admission on that count. Anyway, is that everything on the Queen's birthday stink up?
I think so.
Just lastly on, Roos and the zones, is that, you're right. It's not that the rule for zones is a good idea, but Paul Roos is the last person who really should be commenting on that because he is a large part of the problem. But
You could never enforce a rule on zones anyway, so it's crazy to even discuss it.
moving on to, bringing game in disrepute coach was discussed, and we'll move on to Wessendon. Yeah, they just got over the line against the Giants. Second week in a row, the Giants have gone close, but they just couldn't get there.
Unlucky not to win. I thought they were pretty good, GWS.
Yeah, and, Jab's injured, and an injury that many have described as unusual for a footballer.
I'm surprised that he's going to be out for 8 weeks or so. Aren't the injections working anymore?
Well, once you're out of getting that, things are going to go back to normal, You can't stay that way forever. They're not permanent upgrades. But it's just interesting that he's getting injuries that no one else seems to get. That's just a strange coincidence, don't we think?
Must have run out of
Yeah, I don't think there's
Brady
anything
strap or something.
untoward going on at all. Yep, nothing untoward about that injury. Peptide abuse.
Vitamin deficiency.
It was a bit of a nothing game. It all went as I expected it to go, so...
You expect them to get that close?
Yeah, I mean, they got close to Hawthorn the week before, so I'm not surprised they got that close to Essendon.
I think they had more inside 50s, the Giants. They could have really used Cameron up in the forward line, but unfortunately he was suspended.
You said last week they wouldn't miss him.
And only players from one Sydney club seem to get suspended these days.
Isn't that the
While
truth?
players from the other Sydney club are given a free license to snipe and generally be a thug on the field and get away with it.
Apparently there was a player from Sydney, I saw him on the weekend, he ran out on the field with a pickaxe and he smashed another player in the head and killed him, but it was deemed
Killed him.
insufficient contact.
Yeah, it's because his name was Adam Goods, and
Yeah.
everyone says he's a good bloke.
Fyfie, that's
The other player's funeral is next Wednesday.
But, yeah, we will talk about Sydney Gold Coast then, because, look, Buddy got off, which was just... Does anyone here think that was the right decision?
Nope.
Nope.
That was just fucking woeful. And it's going to help them against Port next week. They're going to be without Tippett, probably. They should be without Buddy. But the Suns were actually in that game for a long way through. They just slipped at a little point just after half-time when they let Sydney get away.
Oh, they couldn't kick. I mean, I think they finished level on scoring shots, but they were sort of ahead on the scoring shot count for most of the game, but just couldn't convert. I think 3-9 in the first half, so it's bad kicking, bad football.
I was really surprised that they were as close as they were. I thought Sydney would put them to the sword, but geez, the Gold Coast were good. You got to give them that.
You know you're struggling when you let Sam Reid kick 3 goals in a quarter because he's a fucking potato. And that's what happened that third quarter. They just went to sleep a little bit and they just couldn't bring it back as much as Collard Jasny tried to get them there. He looks like the Rising Star winner.
Sorry, what'd you call him?
Anus Gisney.
Collard Gisnium.
Collard jism in your face.
Closer.
That'll do.
You hit the spot.
Boomsh.
The collar G spot.
But the Suns looked impressive. They didn't get the win, but they still look in a prime spot, I reckon, for top 8. It's got to be them or the Crows for the last spot. I don't think anyone else is coming through to take it.
Yeah, their draw's probably going to help them out. They're probably going to...
They got a rough month ahead against the depth-proof Hawks and Collingwood, and Geelong's in there too. We'll find out about how concerning Geelong are if they lose that.
Oh, well, the Suns are fucked then. It's Adelaide.
But other than that, I thought they were, for large parts of that game, the better side. They just couldn't put it on the board. Their forwards probably just aren't there yet. But he got beaten in the air too, and on the lead. He got most of his goals by running onto balls out the back.
Stephen May is an underrated defender, I think.
Speaking of Buddy, Kieran Jack gave him a little easy hand pass running into open goal just over the top. Buddy kicks the goal, celebrates as if he's just kicked goal of the year, and just runs past Jack and just makes it all about himself. And if anyone needed more proof that that man's an utter flog, you just got it this week.
He does. He fresh airs the players around him for his own congratulations, doesn't
We
he?
spotted him doing that in round 2 as well with someone who handballed it from a play on and he goaled and he gave him nothing.
Yep.
It just goes to show how fake the Bloods culture is. It's just a sham.
It's as superficial as Sydney itself.
Any success that club has is due to Cola.
You can judge a man's character by how he celebrates a goal.
And we will come back to the mythical Bloods culture when we discuss equalisation. We'll move on to, for fuck's sake, What is with the Western Bulldogs?
Oh, well.
Go the
they're just-
Bryans.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, that's probably something that we should acknowledge is that the Bryans have turned the corner. And
Oh, they've beaten the Bulldogs and Carlton. Just because you've struggled to get over Carlton doesn't make them a good side.
Oh,
Yeah,
shut up,
but
Richmond.
since the Petrie predictor declared the Bryans a final side, they've been 100%.
That's
Yep.
true.
Well, I guess so. That's it. They're coming. The Petrie predictor has got them coming. But the Bulldogs can't kick a goal. They get it in their forward line, but they've got no one to take a big mark, and they've got no forward structure, and that's why they're losing games.
Their best forward plays as a sub every week.
Gia.
Yeah.
They need to adopt the Paul Roos game plan where they just play defensive, and hope that the other team kicks less than them.
Honestly, and I hinted at this a couple of weeks ago, but the Bulldogs should be getting the Richmond treatment right now. They should be copying the same amount of scrutiny because some of the performances they've dished up and some of their results have just been not up to
Yeah, but no one really
par.
cares. The sad reality is it's funnier when we bag Richmond because all their supporters just cry and
Yeah,
spit.
the Bulldog supporters, like apart from Burnt Chook, they're generally pretty good. No melters amongst them.
Yeah.
Richmond actually finished 5th last year. The Bulldogs finished way out of the 8.
They were
Yeah,
supposed to be coming.
but they've
though.
been supposed to be improving, and this year they've gone backwards. Like,
They're
that's
still
a fact.
picking Jared Grant, for fuck's sake.
Well, did any of you believe that they were going to be pushing for a spot in the 8?
Nope.
I thought they might sneak a
I
spot if
didn't.
things went their way, but they'd finish between 9th and 12th. Doesn't look like happening now.
No, it's not happening. Correct.
Yes, they've got some holes in their list up forward, but to lose to Brisbane, to lose to Essendon, to lose to Carlton, to lose to Adelaide in the manner that they lost those games because they dominated it and just couldn't win, not really acceptable. Like,
No, it's not.
Yeah, but bagging the Bulldogs in the media is not as sexy as bagging Richmond.
It isn't.
right, they don't
Well-
have any supporters. That's why fucking Hawthorn needs to bail them out.
Maybe equalisation will sort that out, though. Everything's got to be
All right, you've turned me around, Penal. They're fucking shit and they're crap.
One more game to go, I think. The only one we haven't discussed is Port versus St Kilda. Not much to say apart from Wingard. Did it again.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that mark. Wingard! I'll tell you what, those guys over in Port, like Mardo and his mates, I hope they're using moisturiser when they're having, because
I knew
they
this
would
was
have,
going there.
they would have whipped the skin off the top of their knobs and they'd be bleeding like stuck pigs because they've been wanking that hard.
I don't know what else to say.
Can we put diagrams in the cover for that? Pictures?
The mental picture's bad enough.
Robbie Gray was really good too. He'll be in the All-Australian side this year.
He should be.
He's great, Robbie Gray. Yeah.
They both should be, to be honest.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, though, that apparently Dermot Brereton, this happened on either his show or something else, he actually thinks there's a debate. And he not only thinks there's a debate, he's falling on the wrong side of it. Rioli or Wingard, who you would pick. He actually picks
Oh,
Rioli.
for fuck's sake.
Oh, Rioli every day of the week.
That is not a fucking debate. That is
No,
Wingard by a fucking
no.
street.
One is a superstar and wins games off his own boot. The other plays 1/4 of football.
Yes, one is the most overrated player in the competition, and one of them he's got a high profile, but he's very, very good as well. He walks the talk.
Fucking Nahas gets in ahead of Rioli.
No. Like, this was Rioli's first game back from injury, right? You've forgotten how brilliant
No,
he
no,
was.
no,
No, we
We're-
haven't
We're
forgotten.
including all of his stuff that
Yeah.
he's done.
Yeah,
We haven't forgotten.
Everything
Rioli
ever
disappeared.
done.
Cyril went missing.
You said Wingard's a match winner. Rioli's a match winner too. He won the Essendon game off his own boot.
Oh, big deal.
Yeah, fucking Essendon. Woohoo.
Does that once or twice a year, and then the rest of the time he may as well not be there.
Where was
Oh,
Wingard
I
against
mean-
North this year?
Okay, well, you had one
Jesus, I
game.
mean, take a back seat here. I mean, Port were playing the premiership favourites.
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
thank you.
what are they going to do? You know, they tried their best and they couldn't do it.
They weren't bothered with winning that game and scoring goals. They were just making sure Petrie didn't kick too. They
Exactly.
set their season up in that way.
I mean, if Wingard wasn't surrounded by guys like Robbie Gray and Ollie Wines and Sergeant Schultz, he'd be winning the Brownlow. Scablett's up there on the Gold Coast surrounded by B graders, so he's
B graders.
the Brownlow.
They're all same kind of draft pick as Wingard, not B graders.
But Wingard's been the best player of the year by a street.
David Swallow's going to be a superstar when he gets to North.
I noticed Fyfie threw out the most overrated player in the competition line. I'm pretty sure that has to still belong to Natanui, who got taken to the cleaners by a first gamer this week.
Goo.
No, he's right. He's right. He's dead right.
It's still go though.
Yeah, it's still good. But anyway, another thing on Port versus St Kilda. Look, the Saints are struggling and they're second bottom now, I believe. So, a GWS win over the Bryans next week will put them into bottom spot.
Well, there we go. Didn't we say it? We
Reece
said it.
Stanley's finally been dropped too, which was a move in the right direction. I think we're responsible for that partly.
We've got St
How many
Kilda.
players have we dropped on this program? You went after Hampton and now you got Stanley.
Well, next will probably be Magic. Although I think he might have done that a bit himself. Anyway, we'll move on, if that's everything, to equalisation. And it's very necessary because I noticed that this week both the Giants and North, I guess in a way of saving money, not having to spend too much money on jumpers, reused their Indigenous jumpers, as bad as both were.
North were the Barossa chicken jumper again.
Yeah, like Carlton forgot their shorts, North forgot which jumper to wear, basically.
Oh, they didn't forget. They were just too poor to afford another one.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, because we're poor. We're North. Haha. Yeah. No, they chose to wear it, guys.
Why would you wear that twice? It's horrible.
Well, the Indigenous players at North wanted to wear the jumper again in front of their home crowd.
Which ones? Wells and Thomas didn't play.
Yeah, well, Thomas was a laid out, so he was supposed to play. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as Geelong's or Carlton.
Oh, yes, it was. It was fucking shit.
Well, what's wrong with the Velociraptor claw on the jumper? See, at least they made an effort to do something rather than just put a few Aboriginal bloody trinkets on the jumper.
Okay, yeah, so it's better than Geelong's. That's setting the bar high.
Yeah,
Oh,
and bloody
yeah.
Sydney had the Pac-Man bloody thing on theirs.
Hey, don't you make fun of Mrs. Goods.
That's racist.
Oh, yeah, that's racist. That's Mrs.
Oh.
Goods. She did that.
Anyway, that was meant to be a segue into equalisation, which did come in last week, with the most bizarre rule of all being salary cap rollover of up to 5%, which on a 10 million cap is about 500k. So that's a fair bit of money when you think about it, that a team could actually tank a year. Like, that could bring back tanking.
Yeah, you're right, because they are legally allowed to pay under 100% of the salary cap. So they could bank that for the following year, or they could bank it for 2 years. Then they could put a massive bid in for a big name player.
I don't think you're allowed to have more than 5% in the single year, though. That was my recollection. Like, they can bank it for 2 years at 2.5% under for 2 years, but I don't think you can go over 105%, unless you're Sydney, where you're allowed 109.8% for 2 more years. It's going to get scaled down from there. Kohler's not going straight away. Did anyone catch that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
2017. So I guess the
Few more
IPL
years
must
to go.
be hoping
Still in
they can
effect with
squeeze.
people with current contracts, yeah?
No, I think it'll have to be included completely. So that they'll have to find the cap space as it goes up, but the cap's going to increase at the same time. They still, if they're not losing a player of decent value, say a Parker, something's still wrong. But the AFL have given them a bit of relief to probably keep more than they would have if they made them do it now.
They're just trying to ensure that Sydney win the next couple of flags, 2014, 15, 16, before the GWS juggernaut can
Become the big team in Sydney.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, no one thinks the 5% thing's a good idea, do they?
I don't mind it simply because teams like Melbourne under Neeld and those sorts of caliber teams should not be paying the same as sides like Geelong and Hawthorn. Like, so
They still are. They are, though.
But the idea is to chase the free agents. Like, that's the idea. Instead of sucking, you're meant to, if you've got that extra money in the cap, go buy someone decent.
Will it work the other way when how teams, when they win a premiership, they usually lose a couple of players because they can't fit everyone in the cap? Will it work that way? They'll be able to keep their star players?
No, because you can't go into deficit on it. You can't go to 105 then 95. It's got to be if you don't pay it the years before, you can roll it up.
You bank it in advance.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'll follow you. Yeah.
Well, I guess you could sort of pay unders for a couple of years, and then once you win the flag, kind of dish out some big contracts. But it'd be interesting to see, like, if teams can manipulate it to their advantage.
You may as well just front end it, though.
There's a lot of unknowns about it at the moment.
It's a $1 million turnaround, though, if you go from 95% to 105 the next year. That's 500k each year. So that's Buddy Franklin from one year to another. Admittedly, you won't get that space the next year, but...
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you can't continue it year over year over year.
If you want to sign someone for 1 year, you just go bam and you say, we're going to win a flag now. Like, if you think that one player's the key.
But who would change teams for a 1 year contract?
I don't know, maybe you get 3 players who are pretty close to the end, maybe want one more flag at 300k.
True. Or 2 players at 500.
If you were to say, all right, I want Chapman, I want Lenny Hayes before this year, and someone else, you add those 3 to your midfield for 1 year as a team like Fremantle were this year or something like that, bam.
Just might top you over.
Yeah, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem... We'll see how it goes, I guess.
Oh,
Nah.
Geelong won't be paying any more than 95% for a while because their kids are so shit.
Get fucked.
I just can't wait for the fact that there'll be teams playing 95% every year and claiming they still can't afford it. Like Brad Scott's hooking the equaliser localization doesn't go far enough. The day after it went through.
Yeah,
Well,
he said.
what else is he talking about specifically?
I don't know. It sounds like he's getting media lessons from Suze, because Brayshaw was clearly intent with it.
He said Collingwood got what they wanted.
Yes, he said Collingwood got what they wanted. 75% of all money they spend over the cap, they have to pay back into the pool. Like, what more does he want? Does he want 100%?
He's a sook at the best of times, though. He's like his brother.
Sometimes you just need to shut up and, get on with it. But,
Pull your head in.
or else you're gone. Speaking of shutting up, well, the AFL drugs reports came out last week. 4 players are on 2 strikes.
Uh-oh. Who are they, Fyfie?
I'm going to have a small guess that 2 of them reside in Harbour City, and both have crashed cars this year.
Buddy
You
and
think so?
Hannah.
I think that they might be from Injunction Thorn.
We got rid of all the bad eggs off our list. I mean, Buddy's gone. Dale Garlett's not even around anymore. He probably would have racked up 2 strikes by now if he was still with the club, but he's not. So I don't know really anyone on Hawthorn's list who could be eligible.
What happens if
You can't change your culture that fast. It won't happen. It's just ingrained.
It wasn't our culture. It was Buddy. He was the problem.
Yeah, but he left a legacy, didn't he?
Yeah, it was
Oh,
Buddy
he
leading
admitted
those poor young guys like Travis Tuck astray.
And Hawthorn let him do it.
they get 3? Is it like public naming and ban or something?
Well, no, because they get the injunction injuries like Beams and Buddy are rumoured to have had last year.
What about Watson with the other type of drugs injunction injuries this year?
Yeah, but he's too brave for that.
I love the way he goes about it.
So brave.
Anyway, we'll move on from players who might get suspended to a player who's been, kicked out of the comp entirely. Josh Bootsma. We missed this by a day, unfortunately, because this was fucking amusing.
Yeah, we did. Bad timing.
Oh, dear. Hey, baby, want a picture of my cock? Want to come over for a root? What a fucking smoothie, eh?
Funny thing is, I can just
And-
imagine Teach actually saying that to someone.
Oh, you don't give him any credit. That's harsh.
Yeah, that's fucking really harsh. Man, I got the moves like Jagger, baby. Could you orchestrate a bigger fuck up of your life than doing something like that, getting on social media, and his girlfriend was hot. Have you seen his girlfriend?
Yeah, but she was pregnant, so she was obviously too fat for him. He's going to get recruited by St Kilda next.
He has got a head like a run over fucking
And
apple.
he's a spud. That's why he's gone. It's not because he's Fev. Fev would have got a few more chances by now, or someone like that, or Heath Scotland would have, played fireman fence, but because he's Bootsma, it's get the fuck out.
What a fucking...
He doesn't even have potential like
Jesus.
Wade does.
I actually thought to myself, what would you do if that was my son who did that? I would get him on a plane. I'd get him out of the country for a year.
Oh, this won't be forgotten in a year.
Oh, he has just fucked it up massive.
Bootsma is the first non-St Kilda player to be completely fucked over by social media. This won't be forgotten
yes.
fast. This will be what he's remembered for.
The fact that this was a Carlton player, first and foremost, getting done for this is just bad enough. And then the fact that it was such a Bay favourite, and I use the term favourite very loosely, it will live on for years and years.
Years.
You reckon he could disguise himself in any way, shape or form? Because he stands out like a big blonde gollywog,
Albino gollywog.
There's no way that people will not recognise him wherever he goes.
Well, I mean, if he just put some mangoes down his shirt and then heads down to Fountain Lakes, and then he starts talking like this, then everyone will just think he's Kath from Kath and Kim, and no worries. He'll acclimatise back into society like a normal person.
Was this kid any good? Because he was the first round pick for Carlton like a couple of years ago.
No, he was completely terrible.
He was awful. Well, look at who Carlton have recruited recently. Like, think of how badly they fucked up the number 1 picks. How badly do you think they fucked up pick 16 or whatever he was?
I remember him getting sort of on a Friday night game last year. I think he got outmarked in a contested mark by some Collingwood player. Might have been Clinton Young, who is a complete fucking squib and a bit of a soft player. Managed to outbody Bootsma last year and take a couple of contested marks on him.
But look, there's so many levels to how this is funny, and it's disappointing that we didn't get to have a crack at this last week when it first came out. But we have been thinking, social media is pretty amusing, and Bay 13 obviously is part of that, and we're thinking of what kind of other Snapchats would we like to see, specifically with a Bay flavour. So yeah, we've got the top 5 Bay 13 Snapchats we'd like to see. So number 5, Penal.
Anus Cat receiving a Snapchat from Bryce Gibbs.
Number 4, Teach.
Arnold's cat receiving another Snapchat from Bombers 2003.
Number 3 is Seedsman sending a Snapchat to Short. I think that would be appreciated. He wouldn't be delisted at all. Number 2, Dan.
The great and courageous Lee Matthews sending Hodgepodge a pic of him at the urinal with his pants around his ankles.
And number 1, Penal.
Jared Roughhead sending a Snapchat to Paul Roos from out the front of his house.
Here's Ruffy. But yeah, anything else on Bootsma?
He's probably got a fair length on him because you're not going to send a picture if you've got a fucking teeny weeny like El Santo.
You want to bet because he's done some pretty fucking stupid things so far. I don't think this would be beyond him.
Oh, well, fair enough. Yeah, let's get a picture. We need to look.
Okay, boss.
Only Teach.
Why do you want to look at his dick, Teach?
Just to take the piss, that's all.
Too interested in other people's sex lives, teacher. If that's everything on Bootsma, we'll move on to this week on the Bay. And look, it's been a bad few weeks for Thread of the Week. There haven't been too many standouts. There mostly been meltdowns and backfires. But this week, the creative threads came back. And
we had a really good week on the Bay this week. I think it sort of kicked off with Power for Goods thread, the Malthouse song. And then we had Ugak with another great video. But then I think we reached the Zenith tonight, which was Costanza's BT versus the Mundane thread, which I'd like to put forward the thread of the week.
Agreed.
I liked Ugak's reasons for Boots was sacking. That video was hilarious.
I like Costanza's thread because everyone else was getting in on the gig.
Yeah, I think that was good. That's just one of the ones where people build it. Like, I've been shamelessly bumping the fucking pie charts and Monopoly thread, hoping those will take off because it's been really dull for that kind of thing. And the Costanza thread's really picked that up. That's vintage in the making. That's definitely thread of the week for mine.
Cool.
Yeah, it's one of those ones like the Wikipedia that everyone can have fun and contribute to.
Yeah, we've been lacking one of those threads for a while. But yeah, flog of the week.
I'm happy to vote Jaden again. He's still posting floggish crap on the Bay, and he's put all his family members on ignore too, which is disappointing.
He's a fucking idiot. Nail him to the wall.
He'll be listening to this too, so be nice to your family members, Jaden.
Yeah, you've only got one family, Jaden.
Yeah, exactly.
His granny was pissed off with him, so he just needs to be knocked
Yeah,
to the
she
wall.
was too.
She got thrown in the divvy van.
Yeah, I don't think she liked that, did she?
No, I did that. Sorry to that person, whoever that is.
It's not an alias. That's his grandmother.
She's very technologically connected for a grandmother.
Yeah, well, Bombers 2003 can use a computer, so anyone can.
Oh, yeah. Smash Jaden. Get fucked, Jaden.
I have a nomination, which, look, I could have nominated any number of team board mods this week because they've been in fine form this week. Most people won't know that. But I'm going to go with the one who publicly embarrassed himself. And it wasn't on Bay 13. It was over on the Richmond board where one North mod and the North member, Son of Reed, posted a analysis of Richmond's list by another North member, who we will call S. Olsen. No, that's too obvious. Susie O. And one of the other North mods did not like this. The Richmond supporters hated it too, but one North mod decided to melt publicly and lose his shit and asked Chief to chain up his dog, which, you know, whatever goes on behind the scenes is usually kept quiet, but since he decided to bring it out in the open, it has to go to that particular North mod. You can find the thread on the Richmond board, but
We're not going to name names.
we'll call him TFW.
While we're on the subject of team board mods being flogs, I think the Carlton board mod, again, not naming names, but the guy who cracked the shits on his own board about people liking his posts.
They're always like that over there on Carlton. They crack the shits at anyone like lurking. They're massive fucking sooks over there.
So yeah, what happened is they weren't happy with people like a lurking, and they made a post to this effect saying, please don't lurk like or you will be carded. And then what came this week on Friday night after the game was a massive meltdown, which was, the people from the Bay, they think they're so funny by liking my post instead. Yeah, we won't tolerate this either.
What a pack of moaning bitches, Jesus. No other board melts like Carlton.
North go close, though. So do Richmond. But it is one of those things. Some things get said behind the scenes and they don't get discussed. But it's funny when they do publicly melt for everyone to see and we get to talk about it. So, yeah. But on that note, who are we going to give it to? We're going to give it to the North mod, the Carlton mod, or Jaden?
Well, I'm up for Jaden because he's a fucking idiot.
Good enough reason, I think.
Is that the first time a flog's gone back to back?
Probably is. Anyway. Last week's poll. Why was Teach all over the place last week? 6% said bearded Jack Watts at Eurovision left him emotionally scarred. 41% said he was still drunk from his bender after Geelong's 110. 12.5% said brain damage after falling off his North bandwagon. Personally, I think it's that. But 3% said the Sue's revelation caught him off guard. That may have been one of ours too. It was Dan. And 37.5%, well, nearly won. The Geelong one won, but 37.5% said this was nothing out of the ordinary for him.
I voted for that one.
T voted for that one as well, as did most of us, I think.
But yeah, let's go to next week. We'll start with the match of the round. It's Port versus the Colas at the Portress.
It's in Sydney, I think.
Oh, is it Sydney?
Yeah, SCG.
Oh, that's right, because someone didn't know their geography this week. How's Sydney going to get to Adelaide? And it's like, well, they don't have to go there.
Wasn't that a deathification thread saying...
It was. Anyway, Buddy Franklin's going to play because, he's untouchable.
Protected species.
Yeah.
He is. He would have got suspended for that at Hawthorn. He did get suspended for that at Hawthorn.
Wear the Sydney jumper, you get off for anything.
Basically, especially when they got Port that week. So, not to put a tinfoil hat on, but it is pretty fucking ridiculous.
It's happened 3 times, 3 times in 3 weeks now. Hanbury, Goods, and now Buddy.
Yeah, it can no longer be called a coincidence. All words suspendable acts.
Certainly, I mean, I don't know if it's just the Sydney thing or if it's the Viney thing, because I reckon before the Viney incident, Buddy and Hanbury probably would have gone, not Goods, no chance of them suspending Goods for anything, but definitely Buddy and Hanbury would have gone before the Viney thing.
And yet Goods is the most worthiest suspension of all 3.
No, it's a Sydney thing, and they just get off.
In more ways than one. I'm on Port for this, though. I still think Port are the best side at the moment, and there'll be no tippet for the Swans. Even though it's a smaller ground, Port will still find their run somewhere.
Yeah, Port will win.
Wingard to upstage.
No, Sydney, Port are about to hit their wall and lose a few games that you don't expect them to lose. So Sydney are going to win this.
Either way, I think we're going to be previewing this at finals time, this game. These two have finished top 4.
Yeah, it might be
Right.
a prelim or qualifying final. Won't
Yeah.
be the grand final because Hawthorn will be in that game, but...
For fuck's sake.
I
Wank,
don't-
wank, wank. Use moisturiser so they don't rub the skin off it.
I think this will tell us about Port Adelaide in terms of whether they're a prelim loser
Like the Crows a couple of years ago.
or a real premiership side, because they need to win at the MCG to win the flag this year, and their away form this year has been kind of scratchy. They're obviously unstoppable at the Adelaide Oval, but they lost away to North and they barely fell over the line against Melbourne. And so if they win this, they'll make the grand final and maybe win it. And I think they will win this match.
Next one we'll look at is Friday night, Hawth versus Carlton. Don't say what I think you're going to say, Teach. Look, Hawthorn should beat them, even with the injuries.
Oh, we might get a couple of players back this week.
Yeah, every time someone gets injured, you get a few back anyway. It's not a bottomless injury list.
Yeah, I think Blake might be back this week.
Where's this being played?
MCG.
But
Hawthorn.
Carlton have no tall forwards that are worth mentioning, so we might not even have to play Lake. So
All Sean makers.
we can just give him a run up forward.
Just play Lake and sit him down back. They'll kick the ball on his head all day.
Well, according to Penal, Hawthorn are trying to lull everyone into a false sense of security, so they should play Clangan makers so Carlton get a few extra goals.
So does that mean they'll win?
No, Hawthorn will win, but, it's a false sense of security. Ooh, only beat Carlton by a few goals. Ooh.
Schoenmakers was very good on the weekend. He obviously
Shit. I watched
he
that
made
game.
Jack Darling eat his shit.
Jack Darling's eating everyone's shit at the moment, and yet Clangers let him kick a goal on him. That's pretty poor.
That was Cheney who let him kick the goal on him.
No, it was Clangers. I saw that goal. It was fucking
Yeah,
Clangers.
but it was a fucking pissy one over the top into open goal.
Because Clangers looked the wrong way. He sees him mark it and he starts running inboard. Then he turns around and goal. Jack Darling's played on, running into the open goal. Oh, shit. Anyway, everyone on Hawthorn?
I think he's better as a forward. And Hawthorn will win by 8 or 9 goals.
I think he's better as a forward too. But if you keep playing him down back, we'll get some September lulls, I think. The other game that caught my eye was the Bryans versus the Giants. Giants could jump up the bottom of the ladder. Bryans could jump out of the bottom 4. So high stakes for 2 ordinary teams. But yeah.
I couldn't give a shit about this game. I'm going
Where's it
for
being played?
The Gabba. I will probably keep an eye on it just to see if GWS win, and I think they will. I think they're a better side.
Bryans have been pretty good in the last couple of weeks, so yeah, I'm going with Bryans.
Brisbane will win.
The other game that's on that night is Adelaide versus North at the Adelaide Oval.
Oh, premiership favourites are going to romp this in.
You never know with Adelaide, though, do you? They were putrid. Oh, we didn't even discuss their game, but it wasn't really worth discussing, was it?
Yeah, I was gonna call you up on that. We missed the Freo Adelaide game.
There was nothing worth mentioning
That's
that
true,
we
yeah.
did not
There's
mention.
no loss.
So,
I wondered how we got through them so fucking quick. Oh, there we go. North will win.
I'll tip North, but you can't go with any confidence with North this year.
No, if they pick Majak Door, who knows?
Well, this is the two Jekyll and Hyde teams of the AFL sort of coming up against each other.
I think that North are getting their shit together more than Adelaide are.
North have been pretty good away from home all year, so they should win this.
The Crows just want to know about how Drew Petrie goes, really. That's what's most important to them out of this game, whether they'll jump the Suns or not.
We will see.
Richmond versus Freo at the G. I don't like the fact that I'm probably going to have to go to this.
Fucking
Don't be a
hell.
Suze.
Yeah, don't be a Suze, Fyfie.
It's fucking Fremantle.
I know.
Yeah,
It's
but you've
gonna
got to support your team, though.
It's going to be a shit game.
Cold.
Fremantle are going to win.
You're going to be lining up for a lukewarm pie. It's going to suck.
Yeah, Fremantle, but
Yeah, I'm going to tip Freo, but
I might retire to the bar the whole time at this game and watch fucking Sydney versus Port at the same time. West Coast versus the Suns. Well, this will tell us about how good the Suns are because West Coast only beat the shit teams.
Gold Coast.
Where?
It's in Perth.
I'll still go with Gold Coast because West Coast are fucking awful.
I'll go with the Suns as well, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them drop this. They need to win this considering they're next month against the concerning Cats, the injury-ravaged Hawks and Collingwood.
Yeah, I reckon Gold Coast will win this, and there'll be another sort of novice ruckman to dominate against Natanui. After the excellent job Loudon did, we'll have one of the Suns guys. Maybe they'll bring Liam Patrick back and give him a run in the ruck.
Sounds like Robert Wall's coaching. Geelong versus St Kilda at the shithole. Well, does anyone think St Kilda's going to win this?
Not a chance in hell.
Their youth's even worse than Geelong. They might bring Reece Stanley back for lols.
Well, I hope that they do bring Reece Stanley back. Who's their fullback?
Delaney.
Delaney. Oh, fuck.
And that
this
Josh
guy.
Bruce guy from the Giants, who's also pretty bad.
Tomahawk.
Fat
Hey,
boy's going to have a day out.
Tomahawk is going to see him like double whoppers with cheese coming in. He will just snatch him out of the air, beat him up, and just smash them through the goals. This is going to be a fun day.
Collingwood versus the Dogs. Well,
Oh,
Collingwood. The Dogs
God.
are just shit at the moment.
Collingwood by a country mile.
Collingwood.
Yep, Collingwood.
And finally, Essendon versus Melbourne at the G. This could be close with Jab not there. Essendon are, well, they'll be called brave, regardless of how they go. But if Melbourne put the choke on, not that Essendon kick many goals, but
Could be very interesting. I'm going to go with the upset and go with Melbourne.
me too, actually. No Watson swings it for me.
Yeah, Melbourne for me as well. I think their strong defense will just restrict Essendon completely. They might not kick a goal all day. That's how bad their forward line is.
Bombers.
And that's everything. So this was the Flogcast for round 13. Fyfie joined by Dan,
See you, everyone.
Teach,
Good night.
and Penal.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
SBS channel.
Saucy Bootsmas Snapchats, is that what that stands for?
Saucy